Colin had a problem and a microphone to spare. Thomas took it up and so the podcast went to air. For weeks and months they trolled through every single DVD. They've unwrapped all the ones they can and now they're cellulose free. Now they're cellulose free.
Hello dear listener and welcome to Cellulose Free. My name is Colin and with me as always is my fellow film watcher, compadre and son, Thomas.
Hi, hello.
What have you been up to?
I have been playing a lot of Forza Horizon 5.
But that's not out yet.
It is.
Oh.
It came out everywhere yesterday for everyone.
So if we'd recorded this 2 days before, I could legitimately say...
But 2 days ago, that might have been a good joke. Maybe.
But now it's fallen flat.
It has somewhat, yes.
Oh.
It'll be an even worse joke tomorrow when this actually goes out.
Yes. Well, now, many dear listeners listen to it.
Mm-hmm.
And all go, oh, that was a terrible joke.
Yeah. Playground Games continues to make the good driving game that everybody likes.
It all looks and feels much the same.
Yep.
Which isn't a bad thing.
No.
If you're on a good thing. I mean, I had not realised it until there was an update to a game that pretty much is the only game that I generally play these days, and that's only occasionally. Euro Truck Simulator 2.
Mm-hmm.
That's been out for 9 years.
Yes.
And they keep just adding to it and expanding it, and it ain't broke, so we just make it bigger. More roads and...
improve the bits we already did when we can.
Yep.
And then add more.
Yep. Whereas the Forza technique is, right, we need more money.
Yep.
We'll go to another country.
Well, it works.
Yes. So
it certainly works.
It's Mexico now. So there's a lot of Volkswagen Beetles all over the place because Mexico is the home of the Volkswagen Beetle.
Yeah. And apart from that, I've been getting ready for annual charity internet marathon Desert Bus for Hope.
The desert bus is revving its engines ready to cross that desert.
Which starts Friday the 12th of November Pacific time, which is to say middle of the day Saturday Australia time. And for the second year in a row I'll be helping out by putting events down in a spreadsheet as they happen for 6 hours every night, except this time next week when I'll be podcasting.
So who's going to do it then?
Other people. Apparently a bunch of people in that shift suddenly become available on that day. Very convenient.
Very convenient.
Yes.
So you'll be punching the numbers in and spreading the sheets and making sure that a bus remains oiled.
Yeah.
And crosses that long, straight stretch of road. So that's... to raise money for...
Child's Play charity, giving toys, books and games to children in hospitals around the world, but mostly the US.
Yep.
Yeah, that'll be running until people stop giving money.
Right.
The first hour costs $1, the next $1.07, and then 7% more every time, and it usually works out to a little under a week.
Excellent. A very good cause.
Yes.
Having spent many, many, many days looking over a very sick child in a hospital, many, many weeks, the toys that are in the hospital are an absolute lifesaver. And spent many hours in a games room with consoles set up and other physical toys as well. So, yeah, good cause. We'll slip a link in the show notes.
Yes.
All right. Anything else you've been up to?
No, it's been those things and basically nothing else.
So, all of that, all that build-up for, is it this Saturday?
Yes.
I don't know what day it is.
This coming Friday/Saturday.
Right, okay. So, It has upset the apple cart somewhat as far as James Bond finally landing on Australia's shores after spending how many months in quarantine?
I don't know. As this podcast comes out, it is the day of its arrival, finally.
Yeah, yes, so there are lots of Australians flocking to their local cinema. And yes, I won't be on the first day or even the second.
Because of all the things that are currently happening, I don't know when I'll get to it.
It'll happen.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anything else you've been up to?
No.
All right.
No, like I said, just those two things.
Yeah. Gee, we live boring and miserable lives.
How about you?
I did the old plasma run.
Mm-hmm.
Went down to the wharfs in Hobart to take some photos of some very big boats. Australia has just taken delivery of a new icebreaker, an Antarctic research icebreaker.
The Royal Research Ship, Noyena?
Yes, it's the local Aboriginal name for Southern Lights.
The Aurora Australis.
Yes.
It's a very good name.
This ship replaced the Aurora Australis, and it's a big boat.
It is.
Very big boat.
It's a big boat.
Yes.
You remember to pick up my Christmas present?
Well, I don't know whether it'll get there for Christmas. There is some question mark as to whether it'll get there. It has to do a run around the state. It's got to go up to Burnie to refuel. There is still some question. Now that they have the boat, they're not sure whether it'll fit under the bridge to refuel here. So it may have to constantly go up to Burnie and refuel. I don't know. They say it will be able to, but they're still umming and ahhing.
They gonna move the Antarctic division up there too?
I don't know. So our home city is home to Australia's Antarctic base, I guess, the port of call for all of the
it's also
trips down.
A very deep natural harbour.
It is.
But that doesn't really mean anything if the bridge isn't high enough.
No. There's plenty of water underneath, as long as you don't scrape over the submerged boat that's down there. It's the top bit that there is some question about. Because this ship has lots and lots of sensors and radars and things stuck on top of it. It's quite an impressive vessel, and I'll stick a link in the show notes.
Yeah.
It has a wonderful website that has a webcam fore and aft that you can see our wonderful city from at the moment. It's not live as such, but it's a time-lapse recording of the previous day and a half or so.
Anything else?
Anything else? No, there was something that I was going to mention, and I cannot remember what it was. I did want to put a shout out to the film that we watched as a family on Friday, and that's Isle of Dogs. Have you seen it?
I have not, no.
Oh, very, very good film. The old Wes Anderson has knocked it out of the ballpark with that one.
Right.
And when it came out, it sort of happened at a time where I wasn't in a position to see it, and then it slipped under the radar. And then I somehow stumbled upon it. Oh, I think it was going through a list of the best and worst of Wes Anderson's films. And I was doing
He certainly has some best and worst films.
He does.
Yep.
He does, but this is an excellent film.
Right.
Do watch. Other than that, no.
Great.
Nothing is jumping to mind. So we might get into it. We have a film to watch.
We do.
What are we going to watch today?
We are going to watch...
I must, as I interrupt you yet again, remember to not put the disc into the case when I hand it to you. Yes. Thanks. Makes a horrible noise. When I'm editing, it just makes me twitch. I hate you. You mongrel. You got to mongrel in before the mongrel time. Okay. Would you, pray tell us what we're watching and what it's all about?
We are watching Journey to the Far Side of the Sun. It's a film with a screenplay by Jerry and Sylvia Anderson of Super Marionation fame, and Donald James.
Yes.
Of some other fame, I'm sure.
Yes, I'm sure.
It's a sci-fi film.
Made in 1969.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't see it when it first came out in the cinema.
No.
I cannot even guarantee that it actually got a cinematic release in Australia. It had a very struggled existence. Struggled existence. That's a new phrase, but
Yeah.
it'll do.
It has on the back of it the seal of the Video Packaging Review Committee.
Yes, I had to import this because I don't think it ever got a DVD release in Australia either.
No. It also has a description on the back.
Good. Read it.
100 years in the future, which is to say 48 years in the future, 2 astronauts are sent to discover the secrets of a, air quotes, duplicate Earth on the other side of the sun. When their journey ends 3 weeks early with a crash landing, they must embark on a life or death mission to determine whether they have arrived back home or are on the strange mirror world. This imaginative space adventure offers a journey few will ever forget. It's,
I'm sorry.
The feature soundtrack is in English 2.0 mono, which is to say mono. It's the same channel on both channels.
Yep. We won't be having any whooshing noises. We won't be turning the subwoofer on.
Nope.
It's mono. My understanding is that this is the Andersons' first feature film.
Right.
And it was plagued with all sorts of difficulties. The reason I'm mentioning that is that for the last number of weeks, we seem to keep on running into movies where we have great expectations of or fond memories of that have been shattered on our viewing. I watched this as a 10 or 11-year-old when I was at a friend's place. It happened to be showing on television, and it left a mark.
Uh-huh.
Enough so that I was curious as an adult to track down what it actually was. I managed to do that and ran into problems of getting my hands on it because I wanted to review it because the childhood memory was strong enough to want to do that. I've got a copy and I have watched it once since then, and that was a long time ago. And I have variable memories of what I thought of that second viewing.
Right.
So, in this respect, I have no great expectations of this film. So, it is not precious to me at all.
Uh-huh.
So, don't feel at the end of things that I am expecting gushing reviews because I have a feeling that I won't gush myself. So,
when have I ever been reserved in my opinions on films?
Indeed. So the disc is in the machine. We're going to wind up the disc player and start pedaling madly. We're going to watch the film and we catch you on the flip side.
Turn to side B. It's the one with supposedly the other Earth on it.
Right.
Yeah.
On the far side of the sun.
And we'll catch you on the far side.
The far side, yeah.
Yeah.
Mongrel. So, what did you think?
What does it say about the film that the most interesting thing I found about it was the title sequence?
I'm trying to think. The title sequence was that with the computers.
The computing equipment.
That was actually the only note that I made was all of the high-tech wizardry that certainly didn't age as well as the high-tech wizardry of 2001: A Space Odyssey that held up extremely well. It's a dangerous comparison. I know that's unfair.
We are faced once again with a story that would be much better as a commercial hour.
Which is interesting that you do make that point. It was originally going to be a TV commercial hour.
Right.
But then one of the producers suggested that if we get some financing and some backing, I think this could be your big break, Mr. Jerry Anderson, who wants to get into the big time and make adult films. This could be it. And so they looked at some investments and and finally Universal said, yeah, all right, but the script needs some work, and no, you can't direct.
Right.
And so Jerry Anderson said, no, well, okay. And so they fleshed out this TV episode to a full movie length, which is quite apparent.
Yeah.
And then there were clashes with the director and
then they finished the film, and Universal delayed it a year.
Yeah, hoping that whilst it's sitting on the pot to boil for a year, it might mature or something. Speaking of mature, the other thing that Jerry Anderson was, in his attempt to break into the big movie scene, was to really make it adults only, basically. And so there was lots of smoking, and he even wrote in a nude scene for the main female character, who ended up not being much of a main female character, and the production company said, nah, I reckon we'll do better if we can get it under the rating so that the older kids can watch it. And so it was just a production mess, I believe.
Quoting from Wikipedia loosely here, the British Film Classification Board passed it with an A certificate, which is to say what is today their PG.
Yep.
Under 12, you need parental guidance.
Yep.
And one of the producers asked the board if there was any way they could cut it to get it to a U certificate to be seen by everyone. And the classification board, wrote back to say, no, we think if you did that, it would stop making sense.
Yes. And just to throw into the mix, and I'm not going to name names, but I'm sure, Thomas, you could probably identify the actors that fall into this category. There were some actors who would arrive on set quite inebriated, and trying to get the best out of them with bloodshot eyes and slurring lines and things like that was a major struggle. Thomas is gazing at the Wikipedia entry and is weeping. It, however, is still quintessentially a Jerry Anderson without puppets.
Oh, yeah. Once you take out the puppets, what you're left with is model work, and it is very good model work.
Excellent model work. The intricacy and the beauty of some of these works that had to, in Jerry Anderson fashion, be blown up at the end. Everything had to be blown up.
You'll get one take.
Yes. Mind you, the things that didn't get blown up, a lot of the vehicles and some of the sets and some of the actors then went on to be used in UFO, which was a TV series that Jerry Anderson made with live actors that was, as far as I can tell, and I've only seen parts of some episodes of that, it was far more successful. It aimed sort of more at the right target, I guess. It's such an uneven film.
Here's an anecdote.
Okay, share an anecdote.
Roy Finns as Glenn Ross, the American astronaut, on screen did a lot of smoking, and was already smoking a lot off screen.
Yes.
And so things went poorly for his health, and so in his next film contract, it is reported that he intended to demand a non-smoking clause, just so that he wasn't going above what he was already doing, which was apparently about 2 packets a day, even without the needs of filming.
Yes. What is there to say?
We have 2 artsy pieces in this film.
I want it to be 2001: A Space Odyssey.
We have one which musically vaguely reminds me of Red Weed from the musical version of H.G. Wells's The War of the Worlds, which is my least favourite part of that album. Go figure. It goes on too long and it's not very exciting. And so, too, is this artsy space piece. Too long and not very exciting, and comes in 2 parts. And then later, we have another artsy piece with truth serum of some kind.
Truth serum of some kind that makes the truth come out twice.
Yes.
Because not to be content with all of this psychedelic flashback memories going through once,
Repetition
they felt the need
reinforces.
to do it all again, straight one after the other. Just to pad that hour and 35, I think it was, minutes.
Hour 40.
Hour 40, yes.
Yeah. A note I made that's not really totally related to the film, but a modern version of this film would probably have flipped the Earth in the Universal logo at the start.
Yes. In fact, it's interesting you mention that, because another anecdote as far as the release of this film is... in one particular print run of this, somebody was getting the print run ready and noticed that there were some shots that were back to front.
Oh, no.
And so reversed them all. And so all of the scenes that... okay, spoiler alert, the premise is that there is another planet on the other side of the sun, identical to Earth, except it's a mirror image. So everything is mirrored. So very easy to pull off by flipping the negative. But when the prints were being done for a particular print run, somebody went and reversed all of that and made none of it make sense.
Right.
And it was that print that certain, maybe the VHS release or the laser disc release of it, one release was taken from that print, and so... the chaos continued.
Speaking of that reversal,
Mm-hmm.
control surfaces,
Yes.
right?
Yep.
You turn left, you go left. You turn right, you go right. If you're on a mirrored Earth, even if left and right have opposite meanings,
Yes.
you still turn left to go left and right to go right.
Yes.
Right?
Left.
Right. So... So it's not so much that the controls need to be reversed. The controls are fine. Maybe flip the labels, but there's a whole plot there.
There is. And there was also some very odd periods of realisation that things were reversed, or not realisations of things that were reversed. Such as, I know this pilot was American... But as far as recognising that they're on the wrong side of the vehicle and the wrong side of the road,
where in Europe are we?
I don't know.
Anyway,
I don't know.
Are we in Britain?
Well,
we've got a lot of people who sound British.
Yeah, look, I wish I was paying more attention at the beginning when they were driving those vehicles. It's, again, the joys of having it all filmed by predominantly British actors in a supposedly universal world, I guess. Anyway.
Why
Delilah.
does a space agency have such a lavish interrogation room?
Because I feel that I am really picking on Jerry Anderson, but I think it's Jerry Anderson's fault. He's grandiose, and it might have looked fine with puppets. but
and we almost end with a Eurosec shattering kaboomy in which everything explodes. Even things that don't make sense to explode that much.
Yeah.
That's an administrative building, right? Why is that exploding?
Somebody left the gas on in the kitchenette.
Right.
Yeah, so that's why that blew up.
And then there's a denouement with a mirror,
Yep.
and then the film ends.
It does. It
Rather
ends.
abruptly.
Very much so. The end. We're done. I really would have so much more appreciated a 1 hour version of that. With less of the, I'm trying to be adult and I'm trying to throw in some random espionage for reasons that just stretched the movie a little bit longer. Completely unnecessary to the plot. But
I should explain, when I say a commercial hour,
yes,
I'm talking
you mean
about
with commercials in it. So
an hour of television with commercials in it, which is to say
43...
about 3/4 of an hour,
Yeah.
maybe a bit less.
Yeah.
Depends on where you are.
And when you are, because that length of time has changed over the years. There are certainly TV series that we have on the shelf that episodes turn out being 50 minutes long, and others that are 43, and ranges in between.
And then, and then there's Doctor Who, which just recently has put out a 50-minute episode followed by a 59-minute episode.
Well, the BBC is not a commercial station.
It's not, no.
But maybe they're hedging their bets and allowing it to be broadcast on commercial. See, I don't know what happens in BBC America. Do they have commercials?
Oh, probably. It's BBC Worldwide, so... Anyway. I can't recommend this film.
No, I would much prefer an episode of The Thunderbirds than watching that. Just so that, there's less waffle, less padding, and more spaceships and things blowing up in spectacular fashion. That's what I go to watch Jerry Anderson for.
There's a whole inciting plot at the start of the film where there's a spy, and then shortly after the title sequence, we kill the spy.
Yeah.
And that's the end of that plot.
Yeah, it really was padding. We need some espionage. Well, we don't need some espionage. We need some padding. Well, let's have an espionage subplot.
It gives Eurosec, the space agency, a reason to get the money because... Oh, look, there's a spy. Other people know about this thing on the other side of the sun. We should move now. Yeah? But it's not necessary.
No. And in the commercial hour story, it would have been a case of, we've got to go and investigate. Okay, let's go and investigate. And we do. All right. I think we've thrashed that to death.
Yeah.
As I possibly implied, my curiosity was satisfied the second time around from having, this is it. And I don't recall it being quite so boring. However, it was that last scene that stuck in my mind for some reason. So you're going to have to... I'm not going to say what that final scene is. We've hinted at it, but I'm not going to say. If you really want to...
It's not good, but it did stick in his mind.
It did. Let's stick something else in our minds. Let's move on to the next segment.
The following segment has no title. We apologise for the inconvenience. Dear listener Jeff.
Hi, dear listener Jeff.
Writes in with 3 full paragraphs.
He did. Oh, look, I was so impressed when that came through. I nearly wept.
Apparently, Singing in the Rain is one of Jeff's favourite musicals.
Mm-hmm.
He agrees with us that it's a mixed bag.
Yes.
And he says that I'm wrong about tap dancing.
Well, you are.
I sort of expected a bit more variety out of it. There was certainly some variety in there.
Yes.
But the other half of it was tap dancing, and I could have done with less.
The movie we just watched could have done with 100% more tap dancing. That would have improved the film.
And then we went back and forth about the Avengers and how a tap dancing Avenger isn't in demand. And then I was like, okay, this is Marvel we're talking about. They've done a lot of things. Surely somewhere in its vast history there's some significant character who tap danced. And it was a villain. Tapping Tommy.
Tapping Tommy. Oh,
yeah.
It's times like these when I am somewhat glad that the Marvel Universe really hasn't played a great role in my life.
I don't have time to get into comics. I don't have the money to get into comics.
No, and that was the reason why it never featured in my life. We just couldn't afford to buy comics. We would get books, fairly regularly. We'd go to the library a lot, but comics were just too expensive. The only comics that popped up in my history that came into my possession were ones that were thrown in show bags, and they were random editions, and 9 times out of 10 they were the Phantom comics, and they would be, you know, part 47 of a 103 comic book series. So you'd be, what's going on? Turn 16 pages maybe, and okay, well, that was an interesting blip in
Comics are stupid, I'm never doing this again. And he never did.
And also the occasional Disney ones. And I'm assuming those were also the ones that had the advertisements for trick things, you know, hand buzzers and fake blood. And also a full-page spread of sea monkeys. But that was it. No Marvel, no DC. It just didn't happen.
And now we get movies about as often.
Yep. Yes, indeed. Well, we're going to have to wrap things up here because the Deranged Cat is falling asleep. It's just giving us this look of, oh, he's yawning. Yeah.
Stop talking about the bad film.
Anything
bored.
else?
No, I think that was it.
I do make a personal apology to dear listener Adam, who had to go up to Burnie, which is a long drive for those who don't know. A long, boring drive yesterday, and he'd actually caught up with our podcast, so he didn't have any to listen to. I did offer to him the 5.5 hour special podcast of all the ahs, and incorrect statements that I've cut out of all of the previous episodes and just strung them in one long line. It's quite an episode, but he didn't seem particularly interested. It would have almost got him to Burnie and back, I think. Yeah. All right, then.
Our state is small, but the things are still far apart.
They are, yeah. All right, we're going to move on then.
Pick a film for next week so we can go to bed.
It's your turn.
It is my turn. And I don't have any particular ideas.
Right.
I'm going to give this iPad here a shake.
Which will randomly select from his list of films that he's interested in revisiting.
Let's stay in space, shall we?
Well, it is the final frontier.
Let's stay up in space.
Okay.
Let's continue to have a bad time in space, in fact.
Well, you know, it is a place that one has bad times.
Yeah, there's not a lot of films about space that aren't also about having a bad time.
Well, and no one can hear you scream either.
No.
But that's not what we're going to be watching.
This film is from 2013.
Right.
It stars Sandra Bullock.
Okay.
And George Clooney.
Yes, terrible things do happen.
Yep.
And not before they realise the gravity of their situation.
No.
Did I guess?
Yes. Bit of a character piece, isn't it?
It is rather.
Yeah. This film is called Gravity. And I believe you saw it in 3D.
Well, I first saw it in 2D. And it was one of those few films that made me think, I think I would like to check this out in 3D. And I think it was worth going to see in 3D.
I didn't.
No.
I saw it at home, and that was it.
Yep.
And I haven't seen it since.
No. Did I get it in Blu-ray?
It is on Blu-ray, yes.
Excellent.
How it ended up on Blu-ray, who's to say? Things have ended up on Blu-ray in a number of fashions.
It has, yes. Including some that the little shoemaker elves have changed their trade and have magically changed some of the DVDs into Blu-rays on the shelf. Waffling.
Yeah.
Tell us what Gravity is all about.
Dr. Ryan Stone, played by Oscar winner Sandra Bullock, is a brilliant engineer on her first shuttle mission with veteran astronaut Matt Kowalski, played by Oscar winner George Clooney. On a seemingly routine spacewalk, disaster strikes. The shuttle is destroyed, leaving Stone and Kowalski completely alone, tethered to nothing but each other and spiralling out into the darkness. As fear turns to panic, every gulp of air eats away at what little oxygen is left. But the only way home may be to go farther out into the terrifying expanse of space.
Oscar-winning space.
Yes, Oscar-winning space.
Mm-hmm.
So that's next week?
I've seen it a lot of times, I must admit.
Uh-huh.
So I'm not sure whether I'm gravitied out or whether this will just...
How recent?
Yeah, it's hard to say. The last number of years have been a bit of a blur, so yes.
Yeah.
Who can say?
All just sort of meshes together.
Yeah, but that's good. It is a solid film, I think, so I'm quite up to the challenge of watching it again. And I hope you are too.
I should hope so.
And I hope our dear listeners are too, and that you're able to join us next week when we watch Sandra and George in space. But until then, we'll catch you next time.
Bye.
You have been listening to Cellulose Free. Your hosts were Colin, who produces and edits the show, and Thomas, who makes the artwork and music. Cellulose Free is recorded in the Deranged Cat studios in scenic Tasmania, Australia. We keep track of our extensive physical media collection through My Movies, which we highly recommend. You can find links to that, as well as other places you can find us in the show notes. Cellulose Free is a Hi Hello production.
They should have called it Sandra and George in space. It's called Gravity. What's it about? Well, yeah, okay. But Sandra and George in space, what's it about? Well...
It's about Sandra and George in space.
Oh, okay. That tells me everything.
Should do. It's a very descriptive title.
Yes. Yeah. I don't think I need to watch it now. Okay, that's why they called it Gravity.
Go away.
Okay.
Stop listening to us.
Go home. Go home. Go home. Oh, sorry, cat. I woke up the deranged cat.
What are you still doing here? It's over. Go home. I'm just looking over the list and seeing if anything particularly jumps out at me.
It's not going to be the deranged cat. He has fully fallen asleep now.
That's a shame.
You're listening to Nope, a new hit single from Tandasara.
The new hit single released by First Exit Records here from the Deranged Cat Studios. It's recorded live for your enjoyment.